This episode is brought to you by 25X Productivity System Live, our 2-day workshop where you'll discover the 25 skills to master productivity so you have more time freedom, more energy in your life, and more capacity to focus on what moves the needle. Learn more at theproductivityshow.com/events. Welcome to The Productivity Show, a podcast where we believe that you can get the important things done without having to sacrifice your health, family, and things that matter to you. I'm Tam Pham, founder and CEO of AE, where we help people become more productive at work and in life. Today is another Wisdom Wednesday episode where you'll get actionable productivity advice in less than 10 minutes. Today's topic is thinking time. This is an advanced skill for those who want to be more effective and productive. I'll cover quickly what it is, how you can apply it, and what the benefits are for you. So what is thinking time? Well, let me illustrate it with a simple example. Let's imagine for a moment that you're a basketball coach. You're 2 points behind and you have to win the game to win the championship. My question to you is, what will you do to win the game? Now, when I ask this question, most people immediately say stuff like, well, I would take a 3-pointer to win the game. Or I would get my best shooters in the game. Or I would take my best players in and try to tie the game first. Now, these are all viable solutions, and I often hear other strategies as well. But none of these strategies matter. Why? Because they missed an important piece of information. None of the people asked me how much time was left in the game, and that's a crucial piece of information. If you only have 10 seconds left, a lot of these strategies I mentioned would be viable solutions. But what if we had 30 minutes left in the game? Remember, we're 2 points behind. The gap in points is the same, but the time horizon is very different. The strategy to win the game when you have 30 minutes left is going to be very different than when you have 10 seconds left. Yet everyone jumped to the conclusion that very little time was left and didn't bother to ask clarifying questions. Without doing that, you end up using the wrong strategy and you could lose the game by doing that. Thinking time is essentially making time to think with a clarifying question so you get the right solutions to your problem. Most of us are very busy with family, a career, a business, and hobbies all going on at the same time. When you're faced with a challenge or a problem or an obstacle, it's easy to go with the first instinct or idea to solve the problem. But you might be using the wrong strategy if you don't know all the information you need to make the right decision. That's why thinking time is so important nowadays. Most of us are so busy that we don't have the time to think, and we need more people dedicated to thinking. Abraham Lincoln is credited with the saying, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." Thinking time is not only a tool to sharpen your axe, but also making sure that the chopping of the tree is the right activity and the right move. Nothing hurts more than working very hard, putting in the sweat and tears to address a problem, only find out that it's the wrong problem to solve. With thinking time, we want to make sure that we're always effective first, then efficient. Spending time upfront thinking, reevaluating everything, is 20% of the work that will give you 80% of the result. The better you can identify and define the problem, the easier it will be to achieve your goals. We have to know what our goal is and where we are right now. The difference is what I call the gap. And you're going to use thinking time to figure out what the best solutions are to close that gap. So you might be wondering, what are some examples of questions to ask yourself? Now here's the thing. There are no good universal questions because every situation is different. When you're about to focus on doubling the revenue of your company, you ask very different questions than when you're trying to lose 20 pounds before summer. However, there are templates of questions that you can use. In fact, I have a whole Evernote note with thinking time questions I've come up with myself. But in the context of this podcast episode, let me give you 2 scenarios and give you some questions that you can use as a template that you can then use in your own situation. So in this example, let's take the example of growing your sales or revenue of your organization. A question could be, how can I double my sales in the next 6 months? Another question could be, why are people not buying from me? Another question could be, What connections, skills, or resources do I need to grow my sales to $10 million? Now, notice how all these three questions are very different. They're around sales or growing your revenue, but they're very different type of questions that might come up with different solutions and answers. Now, the important thing is there is no right or wrong question necessarily. You have to figure out what the right question is for you. Now, to give you another example, let's say you're focused on your personal goals. Some questions you might ask yourself include things like, why haven't I accomplished this goal already? Or another question could be, why am I not where I want to be? Or another question could be, how did this become a problem in the first place? Notice these examples of questions that you can ask yourself. So here's what I want you to do next. The next time you work on your goals, set aside 30 minutes and spend time thinking about a question. Start writing down everything that comes to mind when you're trying to answer this question. Do this for 30 minutes until time runs out. Even if you finish before the 30-minute mark, force yourself to keep thinking. This is often when you come up with your most creative and best ideas. So go ahead and do it sometime today or tomorrow. When you know what your goal is and you know your starting point, you can see the gap. Ask yourself the right question to close that gap. And that is really what thinking time is all about. It is something that we teach as part of the 25X productivity system. Thanks for listening to the Productivity Show, and I'll see you next time.